While Donald Trump claims that mailing in a ballot is dangerous and that it leads to voter fraud, in reality, he is sending, well, the Republican Party in the state of North Carolina is sending absentee ballot request forms so Republicans in North Carolina can vote by mail if they choose to. This is what it looks like. It literally has a tweet from Donald Trump's Twitter account on the front. The tweet says absentee ballots are fine because you have to go through a precise process to get your voting privilege. And let me be clear, as we've stated before and provided evidence, there is virtually no difference between mail-in voting and absentee voting. In some cases, in some states, they might ask you for a reason for why you want to vote by mail if you do absentee voting. But the process is virtually the same. Trump is trying to draw a distinction that doesn't exist. Now, the mailer was sent out by the North Carolina Republican Party to registered Republicans and individuals who the party deems to lean Republican. And that was told to CNN by Tim Wigington. That is the press secretary for Tim Wigington, and that's the head of the North Carolina Republican Party. Now, the state party has sent several statewide mailers to make it easier for interested voters to participate. The irony is very thick and definitely not lost on me. Trump has been saying mail-in ballots will bring fraud to the election, but absentee ballots are legit. Which is it? It can't be both ways. I laugh because if the campaign actually took information from other times they have reached out to me, they'd know I won't vote for Trump despite being a registered Republican. That's a statement given to CNN by Chandler Carranza, who posted about this on social media. He was mortified by the ballot, especially because it included some pro-Trump messaging. Now, if you open it, you will see the application to get a mail-in ballot. And then there's also a page dedicated to Trump where it says, are you going to let the Democrats silence you? It's just incredible. The national press secretary, deputy national press secretary for Trump, said the following: the Trump campaign said the mailer shows how it is working to ensure voters in every state know how their state's sorting system works so that every eligible voter can cast their ballot and have their vote counted. So I want to be clear, these are real. This isn't like some campaign ad. This isn't just like spam mail or whatever. This is real. If the voters fill it out, they will get their absentee ballot, which, by the way, that's totally fine. But legal experts are questioning whether it is legal for the state's Republican Party to send this absentee ballot request form with all this pro-Trump propaganda included.
Okay, so I want to be clear about a couple of things here. Sending absentee ballot request forms to people, generally speaking, is not illegal. So it would be a rare legal action by the Republican Party. Now, having said that, number one, be super careful because they're not allowed to fill out any portion of the form that would be illegal. You have to make sure that it's the same form as the actual ballot request form in your state. And you have to make sure that it's going to the right address. So for now, when you have Republicans sending pro-Trump ones, that's not as concerning, in my opinion. That we'll get to the hypocrisy in a second. But what if they start sending ones that pretend to be Democratic ones, but are not real ballot request forms? So they've done this in the past for decades. So the most common way that Republicans will do this is they'll send out flyers saying, hey, the election got moved to Wednesday. And they'll send it only to Democrats. So they've done this over and over again. So they try to cheat in almost every election in almost every conceivable way. And then they'll turn around and go, can you believe the fraud in elections? Okay, but in this case, so far, sending it this way doesn't appear to be illegal to the best of our knowledge. Now, let's talk about the hypocrisy. So Trump says, mail-in voting is so terrible, I can't believe it. And they're like, hey, everybody, make sure to remember to do mail-in voting with Trump's face on it. They just have no conscience. They don't care. One thing doesn't have to match the other. It doesn't matter at all. They're just trying to get their side to do mail-in voting and trying to block Democrats from doing mail-in voting in every imaginable way, okay? And Trump also trying to make a distinction between absentee voting and mail-in voting. First of all, this is mail-in voting. Second of all, there is no distinction. Okay, Trump does mail-in voting, and now he's got his big fat face on all these things saying, make sure you do mail-in voting. But of course, MAGA will not be moved by any of that. I think they rather enjoy not making sense.
Yeah, of course. I mean, they know what they're doing. I know you might disagree with that statement, but this is meant to disenfranchise specific types of voters. That's why Trump is trying to draw this fake distinction, a distinction that doesn't exist between absentee voting and mail-in voting. And there's a reason why these ballot request forms are being sent to very specific people. Now, luckily, there are nonpartisan organizations within the state of North Carolina that are also sending out ballot request forms, and they're not doing it in a partisan way, which is, in my opinion, the right way to do it. But I mean, I just think that the Democratic Party and the various state Democratic parties need to be very aggressive in pushing out the right messaging so people feel comfortable voting by mail and voting early, considering what's happening with the post office right now.
And you guys, yeah, since they're trying to slow down the mail, whatever you do, make sure that you get a ballot in the mail. I wouldn't risk going. So one of our members, Aqualad, is asking, do you guys plan on voting by mail or in person? Normally, I love voting in person. I think it's just a fun tradition, but I'm definitely gonna do mail-in voting this time. One, because of coronavirus, but two, because my voting area is in a nursing home. And no, I mean, really?
Crazy, that is crazy.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. That's insane, right? So make sure you request your ballots if you live in a state where you have to request the ballot, and then send it in as soon as you can to make sure they have plenty of time to process it. And don't listen to any of the lies of the Republicans. Make sure you're following the exact format in your state. By the way, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, there's no reason to believe that mail-in voting even favors Democrats. That's not why Trump is even saying it. He's saying it for two reasons. One, to have an excuse if he loses. Oh, I would have won, but I told you there was gonna be historic fraud. How could you know there's gonna be historic fraud before it happens? It's such an absurd thing. And by the way, credit to Jake Tapper, who over the weekend did point out to Trump's chief of staff, well, if you were really concerned about voter fraud, wouldn't you give the post office more money rather than less money to combat it ahead of time? Of course, they're not concerned about that. They know it's not true. And of course, the more nefarious reason we're all worried about is if Trump loses and he says, no, mail-in ballots are filled with fraud and they don't count, I'm gonna stay in office. So it's not because he thinks it's necessarily a political advantage for him to actually win the election. It's just, it allows for a couple of different tricks to try to cheat to steal the election. Want to win a free electric scooter? Well, our partners at Aspiration and Zoom Electric are making it possible. All you have to do is head to tyt.com/greensummer for your chance to win.